Guild Wars 2 coming up next.
Get going and get into our demo. I'll do a quick introduction. My name is Brian Porter. I'm the Global Brand Manager. To my left is Jeff Grubb. He's one of our game designers focused on story, lore, continuity. And on my right here is the lead content designer, Colin Johansson. And on the demo station driving is Matthew Moore, one of our QA leads in the office.
International man of history.
That's right. So, thinking about the original Guild Wars, we launched it back in 2005. It was its first product out there, and in its own right was a very original and unique MMO experience. We actually even hesitated to call it an MMO when we originally launched it because of its highly instance nature. Nevertheless, it was a wild success, and even today is a place that people call their online home, and is some place that they continue to go back to again and again and again. One of the many reasons is because of the business model that we chose. Buy the box, play online for as long as you want for free, no subscriptions. Fast forward 6 years now, we've sold nearly 7 million copies throughout the world. We've become one of the best-selling online RPGs in North America and Europe, and is a great success story for ArenaNet. When we started thinking about Guild Wars 2, we wanted to go back to what the studio was founded on, that's innovation. So much like we did with Guild Wars 1, we took a step back and questioned everything. What we loved about MMOs, what we didn't like about MMOs, and what we loved about other games, so that we can actually innovate on the genre. And when we thought about Guild Wars 2, we wanted to focus on 3 key areas: your personal story, dynamic quests, content, and then combat. So Colin's going to tell you a little bit more about those 3 areas before we get into demo.
All right, so 3 core pillars in Guild Wars 2. The first is personal story. This is our attempt to kind of put the RPG into the MMORPG genre. If you look at a character in a traditional MMO, and somebody asks you, what is the story of your character? They say, well, I'm a warrior, I wear a helmet, and I kill stuff with an axe. And there really isn't any more story there. There's a story of the world around you, but you yourself do not have a story of your character. So we want to take the elements that you find in a fantastic RPG and make sure that those show up in an MMORPG. So the way that we've accomplished that is when you create a new character, you fill out a biography, and that biography is the story of who your character is. You answer questions like, if you're a human, you say, I'm from the city streets, I'm from the commoner class, I'm from the noble class, and based on the choices that you make in this biography, it actually determines the personal storyline that your character goes on. And you experience completely unique storylines, unlike other races or unlike other characters who make different choices. Within those storylines, you also make decisions that branch the story and take them in different directions, so that you actually have a constantly evolving and changing personal storyline that may be completely unique from somebody else who even picked the same biography as you to start with. So this is our way to really allow you to establish a personality and a history with your character. You have a story journal that you can open at any time, and it tracks all the things that you've done in your personal story, so you can go back and read who your character is and understand their story and remember anything that you want to remember back to that you experienced early on. So that's the first area that we're trying to innovate. The second is in dynamic events. Guild Wars 2 has no quests. There are no traditional MMO quests in Guild Wars 2. What we've done is we've replaced those with dynamic events, and we're trying to create a large, immersive, constantly changing game world by doing this. How dynamic events work is there are events that fire off in a map as you're exploring through it. An example of this would be an army of centaurs might march down and start attacking a town, which is the start of an event chain. In a traditional MMO quest, you would walk up, you would talk to a guy, you would have 4 paragraphs of text telling you about something horrible that's going on somewhere. You would go off and you would find a bunch of centaurs in a field. You would kill 10 of them and you would come back and get a quest reward. In Guild Wars 2, those centaurs will be actively attacking the town, flinging rocks at it through catapults. They'll be marching through the map, going to attack it. The people in the town will be running out into the map, and they'll be trying to find the players and telling them, help, our town's under attack. They'll point where the town is and tell you to go over there and help them, and they'll do this all through voice dialogue. It creates a much more immersive experience that draws you in. So I talked about event chains, and events change the world, and they change the world for everybody. All the players are in these persistent maps together experiencing this. So if the centaurs attack the town, and you don't drive the centaur army off, they're going to take over the town, and a new dynamic event kicks off to save the town. If you don't save the town, they go off and they start chopping down forest in the nearby, chopping down lumber in the nearby trees. And they start bringing it back. And if you fail to stop them from doing that, they build catapults with all the trees that they chop down, and they reinforce the city to make it harder to take. At this point, caravans start coming into the map that you can escort as part of dynamic event chains to bring supplies to try to liberate the city. The centaurs, if not driven out of the city soon enough, will start new events where they move off and start attacking other locations in the map and start spreading their influence. And all of this is going on dynamically the whole time for players to experience. These events dynamically scale, so the more players who show up in the event, the more centaurs that come, and the harder the creatures are, so there's always enough stuff for everybody participating in the event to do. Finally, there's something that we've built into the basic gameplay of Guild Wars 2 that ties into this system that's really important, which is there is no loot stealing and there is no kill marking in Guild Wars 2. If I attack a creature and you attack that creature and together we kill it, we both get loot, we both get experience. The idea behind this is we're trying to build a sense of community. We want people to be excited when they see other players, and we want you to want to be around other players, not have that traditional MMO experience where you see another guy running up like, God, that guy's going to ruin my quest, he's going to steal all the stuff I need to kill. So instead you're helping other players and you're excited to see them. Dynamic events scaling is a big part of that, so there's more for everybody to do, and it makes events even more exciting because there's other players around. So that is our second key pillar of innovation. Yeah?
You said that they get same experience, same loot?
They get rolls on the loot table, so they can get different loot, but you get experience. Yeah.
Okay, so is there any difference than if you just killed it by yourself? I mean, or is it just
Nope.
the same? Oh.
Yeah, it's you working together.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then sorry, I'm losing my voice from doing this too long. Our third key pillar of innovation is combat. We feel traditional MMO combat is stale. It's not fun to watch. It's a lot of standing in place, going like this at people. It's button mashing, standing in one spot. And we want to take the best elements of action games and put that into an MMO. We think MMO combat should involve movement and positioning and dodging. So in Guild Wars 2, you can move while using skills. You can dodge projectiles and roll out of the way of attacks. Skills have a lot of movement built into them, so you can stab a guy and you end up leaping back 10 feet. And we'll show you a lot of that today and show how that combat works. And that's the other really key factor for us in this game. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, who's going to walk you through the story of Guild Wars 2 up until this point and your character's biography.
Okay. Guild Wars 2 is set in the same world as the original Guild Wars, Tyria. However, if you've never played the original Guild Wars 2 is an excellent jumping on point. You don't need to have played the first game to play the second game. It is a world that has changed between the two games. 250 years have passed. New races have arrived on the scene. New professions have developed. The lands themselves have changed. And the elder dragons have awoken. These are powerful, titanic elemental forces that basically have taken up residence in the world and have driven out various races, have destroyed various races, and basically threatened all of the surviving races of Tyria unless they band together. And this is the story of Guild Wars 2, of peoples coming together. When you create a character in Guild Wars 2, you start off with, that's with standard MMOs, with choosing a race. We have 5 races for the 5 races coming together. Some are familiar to players who have played the original Guild Wars. The humans were our player character race of the original Guild Wars. They've been knocked down but haven't been knocked out. They've been driven back to their last great nation, and they are defensive and protecting that which they have. The Char were the enemies of the original Guild Wars. They're player character race now. They've taken over a nation and basically are defending it against the ghosts of their past. The Norn, I'll come back to them in a moment, and the Asura came out of our Eye of the North expansion. The Asuran are small, brilliant, magical individuals who build golems and teleportation gates. They're the smartest kids in the room, and unfortunately they know it, and they'll tell you in great detail. We also have the Silvari, which are new to this, to Guild Wars 2 and new to Tyria. They are literally only been here for 25 years. They basically are born fully formed adults from the fruit of a great tree down in the south. And they are plant creatures, and they are looking for their own place in the world. Now we're going to run the demo here with the Norn. And the Norn are these strong, savage, barbarian giants who can change shapes and take on the forms of animals. And they come from the far north, driven south by the dragon Jormak. into the old dwarven lands, and they've reset up their civilization of drinking and hunting and telling story. So the Norns' virtues are very much at being a hero and being a legend worth talking about in generations to come. So we're going to choose Norn, we'll choose a gender, we're going to go with female here. We have professions, we've announced 6 of our 8 professions so far. 4 of these are very familiar to people who played the original game, though they've evolved and changed for the new system. The Elementalist, the Warrior, the Necromancer, and the Ranger. Recently we've talked about 2 new ones. The Guardian, which is a mystic warrior with strong defensive and support abilities. And the Thief, who we announced for this convention, which is a highly agile, dexterous fighter who basically can fight with daggers, pistols, short bows. They've got basically a very mobile form that will be visiting with the Thief later in the demo. So we're going to start with the Guardian here. We did deactivate the appearance customization for the demo because otherwise people would have spent the entire 40 minutes getting everything right. But we've got a wide variety of looks that we're developing over time. The first question is always attached to your particular profession. In this case, it's a piece of armor that you have, a cloak, a scarf. We have not enabled this piece yet. Trouble may follow me.